Welcome, everybody. Thank you for coming to our first session of the afternoon. That's a concurrent session. Hopefully, you're here to hear about maximizing your income and impact, and introduction to hosting on Airbnb. I'm Caroline Bolas with NDI. And before we turn it over to our presenters, just want to do a bit of housekeeping in case you weren't here either yesterday or today. We have a live captioner, and you can access those captioners by clicking on the CC button at the bottom of your screen. You can also access the captions in English or Spanish via stream text. Just click on the link in the chat box. You'll see we have ASL interpretation. You're welcome to pin the interpreters so that they remain in the first video screen throughout the presentation, and they will be switching off between themselves during the session. We love your questions. Please put them in the Q&A box. We also love you sharing your thoughts, your experiences, and so use the chat box to connect with one another, to share your thoughts, but try not to put the questions for our presenters in the Q&A, in the chat, because sometimes they get lost. So the Q&A, we can just really keep an eye on them and make sure we get those questions answered. You can also use the Q&A if you're having any technical issues. If that doesn't work, please email us at info@disabilitysmallbusiness.org, and we'll do our best to help you. And there are slides for this session. You can actually find them by going back to the live events page where you joined this session. Just under the session description, you'll see that you can download those slides. So with all that out the way, I am delighted to introduce Suzanne Edwards. Suzanne is the Accessibility Standards Lead at Airbnb, where she sets the company's overall vision and strategy for accessibility and works with the teams to make sure it all goes to plan. And then she's joined today by an Airbnb host, Tracy, Todd, Heine. And during this session, they're going to provide us with insights and strategies about how to maximize the rental experience for both hosts and guests. So with that, I'm delighted to pass it over to Suzanne, who is a long-term friend of NDI, and we're so glad to have her back again. So Suzanne, over to you.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Caroline and team. And hi, everyone. It's great to be here. Very excited to talk to you a bit more about Airbnb, our accessibility work and hosting. So I will start by sharing my screen and let's kick off. We've got a lot to get through today. Please add questions in the chat or the Q&A box throughout this. And we will get to them. And as I said, or as Caroline said, we've got Tracy, who is our fabulous super host that is joining us today. So if you have any questions about hosting on Airbnb, whether it's something you've thought about, whether it's something you already do, whether it's something you think is definitely not for you, please start thinking of those questions, put them in the chat box, and myself and Tracy will get to them probably in about 20 minutes, I think. So I'm going to start with an introduction to myself. My name is Suzanne. I'm the Accessibility Standards Lead at Airbnb. As Caroline mentioned, my role is quite a holistic role, so I think quite broadly about accessibility and disability inclusion within the company, and how we can make our platform better for people with different disabilities. This is a photo of me. I am a full-time wheelchair user. I have a spinal cord injury, so accessibility is something I am personally very passionate about, as well as it being my job. So that's a little bit about me. And just to jump into the agenda. So firstly, I'm going to talk a little bit about accessibility at Airbnb, some of the work that we have done. This is more around traveling, so using Airbnb as a guest rather than a host, but I'm hoping it's relevant for the audience here today. And then we're going to move on to hosting and talk a little bit about the different types of hosting on Airbnb, and then get into the actual listing process. Then we're going to talk a bit about how to create a guest experience. And this is where we're going to bring Tracy in, and she's going to talk a bit about her hosting journey. Then we have got time for Q&A. And then I'm just going to share a bit about our community resources that we have and sort of next steps for you guys as you start your hosting journey. So let's start talking about accessibility at Airbnb. And for anyone that isn't familiar, let's talk a little bit about what Airbnb is. So Airbnb is an online marketplace that connects people with places to stay. We have over 8 million active Airbnb listings in over 150,000 cities and towns around the world. So there really is something for everyone on Airbnb. And what about travelers with accessibility needs? Well, this is something that is a priority for us at Airbnb. It's something we are actively working on and have been for a number of years. And we work with our hosts, with our guests, and with experts from the disability community to improve our product and platform. If you go to airbnb.com/accessibility, you can learn a little bit more about some of our accessibility work and ways that you can use Airbnb if you have accessibility needs. But I'm just going to touch quickly on three things that we have introduced over the last few years to help people with accessibility needs use Airbnb. Actually, before I do that, I just want to share about our sort of broader general approach to accessibility. So, accessibility is very different to different people. There's no sort of one size fits all approach. Everyone has got very unique needs. Myself as a wheelchair user and some of my friends who are wheelchair users, we have got very different needs when it comes to traveling, even though we both use a wheelchair. So our overall approach is that we want to provide guests with accurate information so that they can book somewhere with confidence. So the three things that I wanted to share with you, the first is our accessibility search filters. So we have 12 dedicated accessibility search filters that guests can use to narrow down their search results. These are designed for people who have mobility needs. So they're things like a step-free guest entrance, a seat in the shower, grab bars, things like that. And demand for these accessibility features have increased a lot in the last few years, which is great to see. A lot of people need these kind of features. And so we're really encouraging hosts who maybe have these features to make sure that they are visible on their listing so that they can be found by guests that need them. The next thing I want to talk a little bit about is our accessibility review process. So this was something that we introduced, it's actually almost exactly 4 years ago. And this is something that is designed to give guests peace of mind that the accessibility features that hosts say they have in their listing have actually been verified and they've been reviewed by a team of experts at Airbnb. So this process is the way it works. And again, as you start your hosting journey, if you have accessibility features in your home, you will get to know this process. But basically, if a host says that they have an accessibility feature, whether it's a grab bar, a wide doorway, a step-free entrance, they are required to upload a photo of it. This photo goes through a review process where we have a team of trained agents that review these photos against strict criteria. And it's only if these photos match our criteria that they are passed and they are added onto the listing, the Airbnb listing. And then the last thing is our dedicated supply initiative. So we are partners of the Olympics and Paralympics. We also recently announced a partnership for the FIFA World Cup for next year. And so we want to make sure that guests with accessibility needs who want to attend these kind of major events have got accommodation options that work for them. So we've been doing some dedicated supply initiatives. The most recent example being ahead of the 2024 Olympic and Paralympic Games in Paris. We worked hard to onboard over 1,000 step-free listings in Paris. Paris is a very challenging city, has very narrow doorways, it has very tiny elevators. And so we conducted 3D scans in all of these listings to get these measurements and dimensions so that we can add them to the listing so that guests can see before they book whether it's a space that is going to work for their needs. So we're excited to sort of continue these kind of supply initiatives to really make sure that spectators to these kind of events have got some good accommodation options. And what's really great is that, for instance, the listings that we had in Paris ahead of the games have actually stayed on the platform. And so we now have more accommodation options for people that are just visiting Paris as tourists. So that's a little bit about Airbnb and accessibility. So now let's move on specifically to talk about hosting on Airbnb. Hopefully you're all here because you're interested in becoming a host and starting your hosting journey. So what's the very first step? Well, it's to sign up and create a profile on Airbnb. Very simple. Now that you've done that, you can become a traveler as well. So you can become a guest, you can browse, use our accessibility search filters, and find somewhere for a holiday. But this is also now you're at the stage where you can become a host on Airbnb as well. So you can start your hosting journey. And there are actually 3 ways to host. Everyone knows Airbnb for hosting your home, but we also recently launched Airbnb experiences and Airbnb services, which we're not going to go into detail about today, but just to give you a quick overview, what are Airbnb experiences? So these are activities and tours that are hosted by local experts who know their city best. So it really gives you a chance to sort of immerse yourself in a new destination when you go there, whether it's through a local tour where you're exploring, the back streets of London and the local pub scene, or maybe it's a cooking class in Milan where you're learning about pasta and all the traditional food there. So they're really, really cool, super exciting. And I'm really excited to see how we grow this business. And the second thing that we launched is Airbnb services. And these are designed to make your stay even more special. So we launched these in certain cities around the world with 10 different categories. So this is things like private chefs or personal trainer, or like hair and makeup, like getting your glam done, that kind of thing. So these services can come either to your Airbnb listing. You can actually do this in your, in your own home. If you're maybe hosting like a special family dinner at home one weekend, you can actually find and book a private chef on Airbnb to come into your home and do this. So again, another really exciting business for us that we are continuing to invest and grow. But it's not the focus for today. So we will go back to homes hosting, which is our focus, and start again by talking a little bit about the types of hosting. So, and the first thing to mention is that you don't actually have to be a homeowner to start hosting on Airbnb. You can also be a renter. And I think this is the first sort of hurdle that people come across, is they think that they can't host if they rent their home. And in fact, some homes are specifically Airbnb friendly. And this is something, again, we've been working on over the past few years. And we've actually partnered with Airbnb friendly apartment buildings across the US, which makes it easier than ever to rent out your space. So you can browse different apartments where you live, you can discover how much you earn, you can connect with building management, and then you can host on Airbnb part-time. So if you go to airbnb.com/Airbnb-friendly, you can find out more about this, but it's really cool. I don't live in the US, unfortunately, but this is a really cool initiative that we have. And now going back into sort of thinking about, again, if you have your space and you're thinking about hosting, there's actually different ways that you can rent out parts of your home or your whole home. So there's three different types of spaces. The first is a shared room, which we're not going to go into today. We're going to focus on a private room and an entire place. And a private room is when you rent out something, it's just a specific room within your house. So it's introduced, it's sort of the founding concept of Airbnb, and it's the opportunity to stay in someone else's home and connect with locals. So guests might want to book a private room if they want privacy, but they also want to connect with someone, maybe the host. And so the guest has their own sleeping quarters. It's typically a bedroom with a lockable door. And then they may share common spaces such as the kitchen or the living room or the garden with the host, and then possibly with other guests as well. Hosts can indicate on their listing whether there's a lock on the door, whether the bathrooms are shared, and whether there's going to be people in the listing other than just that guest and the host. So there's all these sorts of options if you want to rent out a private room. And then the other option is an entire home. And this is, I think, what people traditionally think of vacation rentals. So this is sort of a home away from home. So guests tend to have the whole space to themselves, although maybe there's a cupboard or a room that is locked off. But you have the entire home, and yeah, that's an entire place. So if you're thinking about hosting on Airbnb, we're just going to talk a little bit about the different motivations that people have, and maybe some of these resonate with you, maybe they all resonate with you. So hosting on Airbnb, helps you turn your sort of your space into extra income for you. So a lot of people are motivated by the financial benefits of hosting. And I actually have hosted my home on Airbnb, and I have found it super useful. I've managed to remodel my bathroom. I now have a super accessible bathroom, which is great because of the income that I've made from hosting. So whether that's to pay for vacations, whether that is to help pay people's mortgage and their bills, the financial incentive is something we can't really ignore. It's super useful. The next is social. So being able to connect with interesting people. I think a lot of people, and hopefully Tracy's got some stories to share, you get to meet a lot of great people and connect with people that you might not otherwise come across. And then the last is personal. So you get to, become an entrepreneur on your own times, on your own terms. There's a feeling of pride of sort of running your own business, creating this income and that kind of thing. So, there's a lot of different reasons why people want to become a host. These are the most common ones that we see, but it maybe affects how you list your listing or the type of things that you do, whether that's greeting your guests and showing them around your home, or maybe you just want a lockbox because you don't want to have to meet your guests. So, we offer a lot of flexibility when it comes to hosting, depending on your motivations. So once you've decided, what type of host you want to be, you can start the actual listing process. And when you list your space on Airbnb for the first time, we need to gather some important details to help you get started. As you go through the steps, we're going to ask you a few questions about the type of property you have, whether guests will be booking a private room or the entire space. And we also need to know the location of your property and how many guests you can accommodate. The next step is you're going to showcase the unique amenities of your home. So to help you create a listing that really stands out, you want to catch the attention of potential guests. So you're asked to upload 5 photos at this stage, and also create a title and a description. You can always edit these, you can change them. So we just need sort of the basics for now, and then you can come back at any stage. And then the third and final step, and really genuinely there are only 3 steps to get going, is to just finish up and publish. So you set your nightly price, you answer a few quick questions, just to sort of final things, and then you publish the listing. And that is all it takes. And as I said, once you've created your listing initially, you can always go back and add more information. You can get really fancy with your description, add more photos. And the final, most important step, in my opinion, is to add accessibility information and accessibility features to your listing. And just to reiterate, this is a really critical step. If you have home with accessibility features, it will really help you be found by guests that need these accessibility features. We have seen a massive increase, as I already mentioned. And so, I really think, not to be biased, this is a great way to increase your bookability and visibility. So this is the stage, and we will be sending more guidance in the follow-up to this, but we guide you through the process of adding accessibility features to your listing. So you can either add things that are relevant to your whole listing. So things like if you have a disabled parking space, like if you have a wider parking space, if you have no steps to get inside your listing, but you can also add accessibility features to specific rooms. So for instance, in the bathroom, you can select that you have a shower seat or grab bars, or if your kitchen has got a step-free entrance or a wide doorway, you can add that. As I mentioned before, you have to add photos of these accessibility features. So if you're starting to prepare your space and take photos, bear in mind that you will need to take photos of the accessibility features specifically in order to add them to your listing. But again, we will follow up with more information about adding accessibility features. Okay, I've covered a lot already. There's 2 more things I want to cover before we move on to Tracy. And the first is around our co-host network. So this is something that I am so thrilled that we have introduced, and I think is amazing. And this is a network of co-hosts, of people who already host on Airbnb, who can support you with pretty much anything in your hosting journey. So once you've set up your listing and you've started hosting, you can have someone that can help you with replying to messages, someone that can come and photograph your listing, someone that can come and clean your listing. So a variety of tasks that maybe you struggle with, or maybe it's something you don't have time to manage. You can find someone who that is their strong suit. That is what they're very good at. And you can combine forces, you work out between yourselves the sort of payment agreement, but they can really support you on your hosting journey. They have a wealth of expertise. So I really recommend looking at the co-host network, because it really does make hosting super straightforward. And then the last thing I want to go through is a bit more of the maybe slightly duller side of things. So this is around compliance with short-term rental regulations. So these are just something that you need to do your due diligence before you host. So confirming that short-term rentals are allowed in your area, making sure they're not prohibited by property owners or managers. You need to stay up to date with new requirements. and also whether maybe hosting would affect your disability benefits. So these are things that it is your responsibility as a host to check and make sure that you are compliant with your regulations. So yes, this is something that is very important. Now we get to the fun bit. We are going to move across to Tracy. Tracy is going to share a little bit more about herself, her listing, her hosting journey, and then she's got a few tips to share with everyone. So I think she's going to get unmuted, and then we can move on to that. And I will be driving the slides for her. So Tracy, just please let me know when you want me to drive the slides.
Stop listening. Can you all hear me now?
Perfect.
Okay. Okay, so yeah, I'm Tracy, and I've been hosting on Airbnb for the last 8 years. That's a photo of me. I'm a C4 quad, paralyzed from the neck down, and I live in South Africa. And yeah, I started hosting mainly just to start earning a little bit of extra pocket money, and just yeah, trying to keep my mind and myself busy. Okay, next slide, please. So this is my listing, one of them. I actually have 2 rooms. They're right next door to each other, and this is just the one room. So basically, it's 2 rooms in my home that I have sort of made semi-private. They've each got their own little bathroom, and they've got their own entrance, separate entrance, and they have their own little kitchenettes. And when I got involved with Airbnb, initially I just set up a basic little profile, but I used to find that people used to come in to the house, because they actually got to come into the house before I show them into their room. And then if I was saying my lazy boy, for example, they'd like look at me and think, why is this woman so rude and not getting up to shake my hand, you know, their hand. So I decided that honesty was the best policy, and decided to just be as transparent as possible about my circumstances. So in my profile, I basically say that I am paralyzed from the neck down. I tell people not to be afraid though, because remember that the real disability in life is a closed mind. And then I say, if I don't get up to shake your hand, please don't think that I'm being rude. Feel free to shake my hand by giving my shoulder a squeeze or a peck on the cheek. I promise not to bite. And I love to bring that humor in. I think it's important to show your personality, because you're connecting with people. It's especially if they're coming into your home. Your personality is so important in your listing. Or I say just a friendly hi is also okay if that makes you feel more comfortable. And then I say, if I'm not around, say for some reason I am in the loo or whatever it is, you know how long these things take when we live with yeah, with our disabilities, then one of my trusty assistants will be around to help them. So I always make sure that there's somebody around to help them should they need anything at any time. Some people appear awkward when they come in, and then they dash into the room and they don't want to speak to you again. And others are like flabbergasted that here you are, paralyzed from the neck down and able to host. And then they just want to stand and or sit and chat and ask you 1,000 questions. But it's really up to you how you handle all of that. You can really do whatever you want because you are complete control. Okay. Next slide, please, Suzanne. I'm going to just maximize my notes. Please excuse me, I'm speaking to Dragon. I use Dragon as she's speaking. Some of you might use it as well. Just hold on 1 second. Wake up. Maximize window. Minimize window. Now the wrong window is mouse grid. Sorry, guys. Mouse click. Click cancel. Mouse grid. 4. Mouse click. Maximize window. Page down. Stop listening. Okay, forgive me. Right. It's quite awkward when you have to talk to the computer and talk to people at the same time. And I've got to navigate things by voice only. Sometimes when I say stop listening to the computer, you must see some of the looks that I get from people that don't quite get it. So Okay, so be accurate. It's really important to ensure that you have really accurate details in your listing, like Suzanne said. Like for example, you have to have the precise address, and then especially privacy details when it relates to your actual space. Like, do the people have their own separate bathroom, their separate entrance? They want to know if they can come and go, um, like to the side of your property, or do they come through the house, whatever. So it's so important to be completely accurate, have lots of photos. The more photos, the better, and have lots of captions. So yeah, I've even got photos. I have two huge, big Great Danes. I even have photographs of my dogs and their names and what people can expect. And you'll be amazed, even after having that, people will arrive in the driveway and then they won't want to get out the car because these huge, big dogs arrive at the car door and put their faces right, or their noses to the window of the car. And then I think, didn't you read my listing? You know, they're terrified of the dogs, but they eventually realize that they're not going to be too aggressive. So that's, well, they're not aggressive at all. They're big, big, gentle giants. Yeah, and then also, if you have got any areas in your home or in your space that are off limits, then you also do that. You make that very clear, especially in your house rules. And then definitely highlight any and all accessibility features. You know, we all with disabilities have got different needs, and we often search for different features depending on our circumstances. But you know, some will need a step-free access, some will need fixed grab rails in the bathroom, accessible parking. It all depends what we need, and what people are looking for. So include as many of those and be as detailed as possible so they know exactly what they're looking for or going to get when they get to you. And then if they do tell you in their message that they have got a particular disability, you can go ahead and chat to them and find out whether there's anything else that you can do to just help them be more comfortable and make the space a little bit more accessible for them. Cleanliness is a big thing. People don't want to stay in a dirty place. Cleaning thoroughly between guest stays is very expensive, very essential part of hosting. Yeah, and I think that that's probably why guests won't leave a five-star review, is if there's like any dirt anywhere. They do not like it. So yeah, if you are not able to clean yourself, then like Suzanne said, you can get a co-host in to help you that's got that ability to do that, or you can consider hiring cleaners, professional cleaners, to come in to meet your cleaning goals. And then the extra support can make your turnovers just more efficient and help you deliver that amazing 5-star guest experiences. Excuse me, I'm going to wake up, page down, stop listening. Right. Then proactive communication. Those are the best practices. So if you're not able to be available all the time during your guest stay, then just consider getting a co-host or getting somebody to help you. Also, there are ways you can communicate with your guests via on the messenger on the Airbnb platform. It's amazing. You can actually set messages to go through automatically. So the automation program is really fantastic. So you don't have to be on top of it all the time, which is really, it gives you a bit of breathing space. And also reach out to coordinate arrival plans. I always check to see what time they're going to be arriving to make sure that I'm up and got my lipstick on and ready to say hi. Yeah, and just after they've checked in, just make sure that everything's gone smoothly with them, and if there's anything that they need. Wake up, page down, stop listening, and then alerting guests if something in your listing changes. Like, for example, today I've actually got a guest staying with me at the moment, and unexpectedly last night, the fiber in our whole area went down. So I know that the guest is here for work. I immediately alerted the guest and said, unfortunately, that's what happened. It's beyond my control. usually when you alert them and you're proactive with communication, then they are very understanding. And these things happen all over the world, but especially in South Africa where I live. Yeah, and you can use your scheduled messages. Oh, and then amenities. Guests expect basic amenities, like essentials. I mean, everybody wants to go and stay at a place. You don't want to have to carry your own toilet paper, for example. So toilet paper is extremely important. Hand and body soap, at least one towel per guest. And if they're going to stay for long, then you just make sure that you change their towels and give them an option to change their towels after a couple of days. At least one pillow per guest, but I have learned that I have two, and I have one hard one and one soft one, because some people like a hard pillow, some people like a soft pillow. So I found if they're too hard, then somebody will complain. If they're too soft, somebody will complain. If you have one of each, it really helps. And then linens for each guest bed, make sure that they're clean, and strip your linen after every guest has been there. And yeah, and then especially if they are going to be staying for extended periods, then you can really discuss with them what their needs are. Slide 36, please, Suzanne. Okay, so basically, as a host, the most valuable thing and the important thing is that you are in control. And I think as an Airbnb host for myself, what I love most about this platform is that I feel supported and I feel incredibly protected. In South Africa, we have a lot of crime. It's scary allowing strangers into your home, but Airbnb, I've never had an issue. They really are supportive. Their communities are amazing, and also the review system is amazing. So you can read reviews on guests before you allow them into your home, and vice versa. Yeah, and I think, yeah, so being in control for me is the absolute best. And you can also, if you don't feel like hosting this weekend, then you can close your calendar, so that nobody can book. So it's just about you can host when you want, if you want. Wake up, page down, stop listening, and then you can also set your own house rules, which is really lovely. Like for example, in my home, because I am living in a home with I have elderly parents on the property as well. We are immunocompromised. I don't like people smoking in my home, so no smoking for me. I also don't allow people to have parties at all hours. I have two Airbnb rooms right next door to each other. It's important that guests are considerate of one another and quiet for the guests next door. And then also I also ask about check-in times, or I can set the check-in times, but I also ask them what time they're going to be checking in. And then also if they're coming in a group, like if there are 2 or 3 of them coming, then I insist on knowing everybody's names. I don't want to just allow anybody and any stranger into my home. So that's nice, and that makes me feel a lot safer when you know that Sam and Jane and Paula are coming into your home. Yeah, so basically the house rules set the parameters for the guest, and it helps protect me and my property. So yeah, I think wake up. I just want to check. Wake up, page down, close window, click don't save, stop listening. Okay, so if anybody's got any questions, I am up for answering. I hope I've remembered everything, Suzanne. Is there anything that you can think of that I've left out?
No, I mean, that was amazing. You are a true expert host. There's a reason we call you super host, because you are phenomenal that you manage not 1 but 2 listings. And by the sounds of it, you manage a whole team of people to help you manage it, help with everything. So I think that's amazing. I'm stopping my screen share so that we can get to the Q&A, because I've seen lots of things popping up in the boxes, and I know my colleague Danny and Andrew have been monitoring that, but forgive me to anyone that's watching and listening that I sort of now dart between screens and look at things, but I want to dive into some of the questions. So one of the questions, Tracy, I'm going to give this one to you because this is perfect for you while I sort of browse through some of the others. Someone wants to know how they can make sure they provide a good experience and get good reviews. Because, I think reviews are a huge part of this. So, yeah, any tips on that?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing for me is basically keeping the space clean and giving what you promised. But communication, everybody says that communication is such a cliche, but in relationships, in any relationship in life, communication is so important. So talk to your guests. If you don't want to talk to them face to face, message them and ask them, what do they need? Is there anything that they need? So I think if you are proactive in that respect, you're going to get good reviews. And if there is a problem, you let your guest know. Like sometimes there's no hot water because there's been a burst pipe or the power's been out or whatever. These things happen in life all over the world. So just be honest, I think.
Amazing. Love that. We also have a question here, which I can answer a little bit, but also Tracy would love your input as well about how someone can be more accessible without it costing a fortune. So I think, I agree. I think a lot of people do assume it will be very expensive. There are a lot of small modifications that you can make that are not super expensive. Things like a portable ramp. If you have like a small step to get into your home, you can buy a portable ramp for $50 on Amazon. You don't have to remodel your entire front garden and landscape it to make it step free. Same with the bathroom. If you aren't able to make any big adjustments to it, you can make smaller adjustments. Again, shower seats, you can buy them for $50, $100, and that's super useful for a lot of people. So I think there are a lot of options and a lot of affordable options. But Tracy, do you have any more thoughts on being more?
Yeah, so I agree with you fully. And just a simple thing that I did, I had a step-free shower already, but then I just made sure that there was a hand shower attached to the main shower head. So if you are able-bodied or not, everybody can use it. It's inclusive for everybody to use that shower. So it's little things that you can do. And I think if everybody just does a few little things and you're honest and you have photos of everything, you'll find the guests that will fit with your listing.
Yeah, I love that. Okay, we have a question, another one for you. What is the one thing you wished you knew about hosting before you started? I love these deep questions.
What? That I was going to actually make so many good friends. And then they'd want to come back again and again. And I'd have to be quite firm about them booking through Airbnb and not wanting to book privately. So that is my golden rule. I don't like taking private bookings. So I have that one rule for everybody, and then everybody understands. Because otherwise, if something goes wrong, I'm not protected, and vice versa.
Yeah, I love that. That was actually a question that I was going to have, but this person has already asked it. Was around whether you have made lots of friends, whether you have any like memorable stories of guests, or people proposing to someone, or people having babies on your doorstep. I feel like a lot of our super hosts have these kind of crazy stories that we're like, wow.
No, absolutely. I have so many to think of. I mean, over the last 8 years, but yeah, I feel like I've become granny and mummy a few times because people come in here and the husband stays here, and I live just down the road from the hospital. So we've had a few babies being born, not in the house, but close to the house, and then they bring the baby back to the house just before they leave again. And then one funny story, I love hosting people from all over the world, and often things get lost in translation. I have these two big Great Danes, like I said, and these people from Europe came over and they said, "Oh wow, these dogs are amazing." And then they said, instead of asking me what breed they are, they said, "What race are they?" What race are my dogs? So that was very cute. So little things like that, you just meet and connect with the most amazing people.
Oh, that's so good. Okay, someone has asked whether you request each guest to provide a driver's license. So from the Airbnb side, we verify guests' identities before they are able, when they sign up for an account on Airbnb. So they are not able to book without us verifying their identity. I don't know, Tracy, whether you do anything in addition to this. I don't think it's necessary.
No, I don't. You know, at first, there are often companies that will book on behalf of colleagues, for example, and at first that made me feel uncomfortable. But I actually, with the review system, I don't have any issues. And Airbnb does their homework so well. They check everyone, they verify everyone so well. And I've really had no problems or no issues. So no, I'm actually happy with that.
Nice. Sorry, I'm hopping across to the chat as well. I love this question that we have, which is, and I think you've already sort of touched on this, but someone has asked, when you disclose your disability on your Airbnb profile, which you mentioned you did, do you have any concerns about being taken advantage of by strangers who may not always have good intentions?
So yes, to be honest with you, that's actually happened to me once. I was stalked by somebody, specifically, yeah, it was not a nice experience, but like I say, Airbnb are so on top of things. You can contact them immediately. Their support is incredible. But so yeah, you get that, but you know what? You get it in real life. You get it all over. So yeah, I don't feel extra threatened because I'm putting it out there. I'd rather be honest. But everybody's different and everybody can do what suits them best.
Yeah, amazing. We have a question about chemical sensitivities. I'm also mindful of time, so I'm going to sort of get through these last couple of questions. So someone has asked about chemical sensitivities because they have a chemical sensitivity, but they love traveling. And I have heard this feedback a lot that these guests would love a search filter for a fragrance-free home, but this is something that hasn't happened. I'm aware of this. It is something, you know, we're always looking at different search filters we can include and different ways that, you know, hosts can indicate if they have different features, like for instance, being fragrance-free. So this person's asking whether you, Tracy, as a host, you've heard of anything on this issue or anything. Because she says she sometimes gets rejected outright when she messages to ask them about whether they use scented laundry detergent or Febreze.
Okay. No, I haven't had any personal experiences, but obviously, when a guest does check in, and the first thing you hear is you hear them starting to sneeze, then you realize, okay, this is a sensitive guest. And then I'll reach out to them in the message and just in the message part, and I'll just say, you know, do you have any issues? Can I help with something? Can we take out some of the linen, whatever? I just, yeah, because you've always got things in your house that you can maybe swap out or whatever. So just message. It's just, yeah, communication once again.
Yeah. Okay, final question, because I think this is a great one to end on. Someone wants to know how you bring your local culture into your hosting experiences.
Yeah, I think, look, I don't provide any food or anything. So I think by just giving them options of where they can go out and what they can see, so that sort of thing. And I think my home is a mix of cultures. So they get to mix with my care assistants who are Siswati, and then myself. So, and I've got a little grandchild. So yeah, they get to mix with the different cultures as they come in, and just basically just interacting. I would say that's the biggest thing for me.
Amazing. Love that. Right. On that note, thank you so much, Tracy. Honestly, it's been so great to hear your experiences as a host and answering all these questions. I've just got a couple more slides, which I'm going to quickly whiz through just to wrap us up.
Will you just mute me, Suzanne?
Yes, I believe you are going to be muted, but thank you very much. So yeah, I'm just going to take 1 minute to walk through some of our resources for you and ways that you can connect to the community. So we have a great, Tracy was a very good advert for this, saying that she feels very well supported. We have a great resource center, which has got articles, tips, you know, things for you to know about becoming an Airbnb host and things to support you along your journey. So I really recommend that. You also have the option, once you've become a host, to join a host club. So this is a great way to connect with other hosts in your area. You can learn from them. I'm a member of my local host club where I am, and people are always, you know, asking for suggestions, and they're asking for tips, and they're sort of sharing things with each other. So our host clubs are a fantastic way to connect with other hosts. And also, if you want to learn more about hosting, We have some more academy sessions. We have one on confident hosting. So this is a more advanced session. So feel free to join that as well. And with that, I just want to say thank you so much, Caroline, the NDI team, and the biggest thank you to Tracy as well for joining us today.
I agree. Thank you so much, Tracy, for sharing your experiences. That was amazing. So clear and helpful. Thank you, Susan, as ever, for just sharing, just how valuable Airbnb can be. And particularly, you don't have to have a full house. Someone even asked in the questions you might have thought about, can you have a tent? And it's just, there's so many options out there that people are just not aware of. So I just want to thank you both for just sharing your experiences and making it really come alive. So we would love for the audience to rate this session. As we said before, there's a very brief feedback survey, which you'll find on the live events page. You just click rate this session. You can do stars and you can give a comment that we really, really love as well. We're going to soon move into our break. Our next sessions are at 3 p.m. Eastern Time. We'd love you to join. Remember, you can only click the link to join 2 minutes before we go live. But we are going to have 2 more amazing sessions, one on AI and another one around how to work with SCORE. And I know a lot of you have been asking about mentors and resources throughout the 2 days here. So that both of those are going to be really great informational sessions for you. And we do have our resource page. You can download an entrepreneurial guide if you're thinking of starting or growing a business. It also has accessibility information. And we have our booths. We have so much great information in there. We have Verizon, who currently are providing a grant for $10,000. It's a free platform that provides training, peer mentoring, self-paced modules. And if you do just 2 of those, you become eligible to apply for a grant. And we recently worked with an entrepreneur who received one of those $10,000 grants, which was very exciting for her. There also is the small business credit survey that the Fed are providing. And this is so important for our community. We've been working with the Feds for a number of years to get the question around disability on the survey. And we finally got there. So just as, we talk about women-owned businesses or veterans, we often don't find data about disability-owned businesses. And it's so important that our voices are heard. It's a survey that takes about 10 minutes or so. It runs to November the 14th, and we would love, love, love you to complete it because, again, it really just helps understand about the opportunities and challenges that disability-owned businesses face. We also could not do this without our sponsors. We have a sponsor page where you can click on the logo, find out more, and I'm delighted that Airbnb is one of our sponsors. So in addition to the slides that you can download, you can also click on that sponsor page and it will take you to Airbnb's website and find out even more information about the wonderful opportunities, both as a host but also as a guest. So it's, provides such a welcoming environment, and now there's that accessibility piece. It makes so much a difference. So with that, again, thank you so much, Tracy. Thank you so much, Suzanne. Thank you all for being here, and hopefully we'll see you in 10 minutes time at our next session. But thank you, everybody.